Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, and I got a new hat.
You got a new hat.
I got a new hat. A hat that I said I was going to get for a while. Um, it's a red hat,
So you can't wear it
but
in
it's not
public
the kind of
without
red
getting
hat that you.
maced.
It's not. Yeah. It's Deus Volt the fucking hat.
I can get behind that.
uh, we have fun here.
Yes, we do. I will just go ahead and apologize for my exhaustion because, again, blood pressure problems
Yeah,
leaving
shit. I'm
me
about to say
rather
a
drained.
stark contrast to the last podcast.
Yeah. Not to mention, as many people know, because of a prior assault on my person plus other issues, all of my top teeth are fake. And when I threw my denture in, I started gagging on it violently. So I had to pull it out, let myself rest, and then put it back in. And yeah, that's not a fun feeling. So basically, dry heaving while trying to like look normal is not fun. So yeah, not the start to my day I wanted. So let's see here. Well, I don't really have a random topic to start us off with, surprisingly enough. Aside from, it seems that cancel. Well, yeah, this is a good one. It seems that cancel Micah failed.
Yeah, well, then again, when you spend an entire show mocking it, I think there's nowhere to go but directly to hell.
Yeah. Well, the big thing for me was the premise of it wasn't even anything valid. You know, it's like you've got me saying the words "cum dumpster" about a character on a war campaign stream, and when you don't do the research, like I don't know like what you expect, like how you expect to get a win from that. And this is something, and this is why I'm very happy that God made my enemies ridiculous, is because if you are completely and totally unwilling to do any sort of research into somebody before even discussing them, that extra context is going to doom your entire mission. Because context is king. And if context is king, then, losing it, you lose all control over the situation. So, like, the premise just was not there. Not to mention, some of the people who brought it up had, as I pointed out, had much more tainted backgrounds than I do. And then you had Edwin Boyette with his schemes and scams. Trying to say that I was trying to deflect from criticism. It's like, no, no, no. I addressed what people were saying right out of the gate, did I not? Like, that was the
Yeah,
first thing I did.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like, so no, I didn't avoid squat. I was more than happy to lean into it. The the kicker to me was, it's like you and Mike Miller have done all this heinous stuff, and you're gonna sit there and get at me over the words "cum dumpster." You're hypocrites. Like, every single one of these people are hypocrites, and that is one thing that I found to be an effective tactic, is call them crazy, because they are, and then drag them into the sunlight. Because it's always it's crabs in a bucket, It's always the people who don't have success or don't have the things you have in life that want to destroy you. It's always the case. I've found that out throughout my life. You have something that they desire, they will try to destroy you just to bring you down to their level. As if that
Mm-hmm.
really needs to be what happens. People need to elevate themselves, not, go after people who are seeing an upward trend in their life and try to, rain on their parade, because at the end of the day, it doesn't change where you're at. And someday, hopefully, these guys will learn that sort of thing.
Hopefully, but I'm not going to expect it anytime soon.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. So, politics or entertainment, partner?
Huh?
Where should we start?
Oh, do I have a coin to flip? Um, I do. Is this one of these strange English coins? No, it's not. I bought this jacket and it had random British money in it. I don't know why.
That's weird.
Let's see. Heads is politics, tails is the fun one. Tails is the fun one. Let's start with fun.
All right.
All right. Hell yeah.
Koopa's Revenge Home wants to know, what is your favorite Christmas movie, and why is Hats Shazam?
My favorite Christmas movie is not Shazam. My favorite Christmas movie is A Christmas Story.
Mine's Die Hard.
Die Hard is also Die Hard is also up there. I love Die Hard so much. I was just talking about Die Hard this past weekend too. How I wish that they would make the "Now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho" sweaters again. I wish they would.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, that's aside from that, I am not that big into Christmas movies at all. So, but Die Hard,
Yeah, there's a couple that I have to watch around Christmas. Die Hard is one of those movies where you can watch it any time of the year and it's still good. But like A Christmas Story, it's not the same outside of Christmas. I like the Santa Claus a lot too, and I know people kind of hate it because it's one of those crappy Tim Allen movies from the '90s. Like really, really watch it. The dialogue is actually hilarious. As an adult, I get way more enjoyment out of that movie than I ever did as a kid.
Wait a minute. I did forget one. that I will have to watch. Jingle All the Way.
Hadn't seen that in a while, but not
Put
bad.
the cookie down now. Yeah. I'm just trying to get the Turbo Man doll. All right. The Alpha Incel wants to know thoughts on queer kids stuff leaving YouTube. Good
No
riddance.
opinion. I never really gave a fuck about queer kid stuff.
I don't. My whole thing is this. Like, I am very much against teaching that sort of stuff to children because they're children.
Mm-hmm.
They should be more concerned with toys and fun things than have to get mired in the adult bullshit of sexuality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that they fuck right off, to be honest with you.
Why? I just want to know why they're leaving. Like, is it because of a protest against YouTube? Is it they get forced off? Or
I don't know. I really have no
copyright
clue.
bullshit? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, it didn't come with context.
What was the
so,
cause? Yeah.
Yeah, if there's a story behind that, let us know. Let's see here. Kale Bach wants to know, have you seen the short indie film Night of Hope by Adaria Olomouc? It's a great film about a knight kicking the asses of a bunch of outlaws. It's only about 14 minutes long. Have not seen that.
Never heard of this.
Sounds interesting. So maybe I'll take 14 minutes out of my day at some point and have a look. We'll see what happens.
Night of Hope. All right. Check that shit out.
Matchstick wants to know. I just got it, so thoughts on DC's Kingdom Come. Reminds me of modern day as it takes place in 2020 and the new generation is split between junior Punishers and people who try to do good. Well, Kingdom Come's a classic for a reason. And, oddly enough, it was sort of... it captures the microcosm of comic books in general, and I think it has for a long time, of, people desiring the old school black and white morality of the old days, plus the people who desire the new edgy stuff, and then where it takes them. I think it's obviously a beautiful book. Alex Ross's art is incredible. Yeah, there's not really much else to say aside from that. It's a must-own. Anything to add, Hatman?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it.
All right, Cackle Atrophy wants to know, what are your thoughts on the videos about Marvel Star Wars stealing fan designs and not giving credit or acknowledging the creators? I haven't heard about this.
I have not heard about this. Let's see. Anything? I am not seeing. Apparently it's something that's been going on for a while. Every single capital ship in Star Wars Allegiance has stolen fan art. That's not still, it's traced apparently. Yeah, fuck that shit.
Yeah, like that's definitely the response, the appropriate response.
Fuck that shit, and I don't give a damn if you try to pull rank and say, oh, well, we own the franchise, so we own all derivatives of it. No, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit. No.
Agreed. Let's see here. Eclectic wants to know, what is your view on the nature of the Force?
Well, the Force is what gives a Jedi his strength.
Yeah, there's a bunch of quotes we could pull out of the ether, but I mean, I think it's an interesting concept, when it comes to sci-fi stuff. I always thought that was the one thing that made, Star Wars that much more interesting than any other science fiction out there, is basically George Lucas put an element of fantasy in it.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of Wicca in a way, but at least from what I understand of it, I can't help but wonder if modern Wicca has pulled from Star Wars too, with the Force, or if it was the other way around. I don't know. I know very, very little about Wicca, but from what I understand of it, the Force sounds a lot like, energy connecting all living things.
Well, it pulls a lot
being able
from
to use magic from it.
It pulls a lot from other polytheistic religions in regards to this idea of a binding life force. Hinduism has a similar
sort of
idea.
Yeah, but without the whole
Shintoism does too.
Yeah, but without the whole, theism part.
Yeah, exactly. The idea that it is a god of some sort is very vague. So, no, I think it's a very interesting concept that takes basically what would have been a mundane science fiction story and then makes it something new. I think that a lot of people really need to understand the most interesting part of of Star Wars is the Jedi, you know, and the things that go on with the Jedi, because they are the coolest part of the story. You're more than welcome to like Han Solo as much as you want, but 50,000 clones of him isn't going to make the Force any less interesting, you know. Let's see here. Brian Gilmartin wants to know, thoughts on Metacritic removing many negative reviews for Death Stranding. So, I don't know the context on this one. Let me look this up real quick. So, let's see here. Let's see here. So this is Metacritic's statement. They said a number of user-generated reviews for Death Stranding were flagged for suspicious activity and been removed. Metacritic takes issue of potential score manipulation seriously and has a number of policies in place to maintain score integrity. Moderators regularly review the site and review any entries that do not fall within our guidelines, in addition to moderation queue, where Metacritic users can flag unusual behavior. Moderators then review and remove any entries that violate our terms of service. So it sounds to me like it was getting review bombed.
Yeah, wasn't it getting review bombed on IGN too?
I don't know.
For like the community awards for it, and one of the IGN staff members was like, "What the fuck is with you guys?"
Well, and that's generally the thing. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if like Razorfist or somebody did a video slamming it, and then his fans went and did that, you know? And this is something that, by the way, I'm not blaming Razorfist, just before anybody starts throwing accusations around. What I am saying is this, is that you can't control your fans. And what can happen is somebody can watch a video and they get fired up because the creator's fired up. And then they're like, yeah, you know what? Fuck Kojima. I'm going to go and I'm going to review bomb the game to manipulate a score, you know, to fuck over consumers. And you know, that's not what they're probably thinking, but that is what happens. You know, never ever 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 do that. You know, that I will say that right, like, don't review bomb things. Don't fucking do it. It's a shitty thing to do. And by the way, I say that about like things that I don't like. Don't review bomb it. Like, if you haven't seen it, don't do that. Do not do that, because you're fucking over the person in the middle. You're fucking over the person who's curious. Let them hear from people who have actually seen it. You know, like, you're more than welcome to your opinion, but like with a full-on fucking review, something that can affect somebody else's perception of the product, if you don't know shit about it, don't say anything. Like, and I'm just saying that as common courtesy to somebody else. You know, I've never driven a Humvee, so it'd be really stupid for me to talk shit about Humvees, wouldn't it? You know, it's absolute silliness. It really is. And, you know, review bombing stuff, review bomb is a term that does get thrown around a little bit too much. I will concede that. But at the same time, it does happen. You know, Kojima is one of those figures that is very polarizing. It wouldn't surprise me if Death Stranding gets Game of the Year. It wouldn't surprise me. And immediately there will be accusations toward Jeff Keighley of an ethics breach, because Keighley is in that game. He has a cameo appearance, and he has had a long-standing friendship with Kojima. You know? So that's sort of where the issue lies. But review bombing the game is not going to change anything. You know, it just makes you look like a jerk. So if that is indeed what happened, you know, I'm gonna always find that ridiculous, always, because and then this is another thing that just drives me crazy about it. It's like, I've actually had conversations with people who hate Kojima. It's like, well, how many of his games have you played? None. Well, then shut up. Stop being an asshole. Like, don't be a dick is not hard.
No, it's really not. In fact, one might say it's rather easy.
Yes. All right. Thoughts on Mein Waifu is the Führer trailer? What? What?
Oh, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that was actually a thing. That was a Kickstarter.
What?
I think it was a virtual novel. Yeah. Yeah. There was a Kickstarter for a virtual novel or some kind of waifu game called My Waifu is the Führer, and your waifus are the Nazi high command.
All right, hold on. I'll get you guys a live reaction. Give me a minute.
Micah, I can guarantee you that it's going to be better than the cringe that I made you watch.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right, hold on. I gotta do a couple things with my windows here. There we go. All right, hitting it. What the fuck is this? Unknown historical figure. What the fuck? What is this bullshit? Why did Angela Merkel just show up? What the fuck did I just watch?
My waifu is the Führer.
Why was she naked at one point? Why are we waifuing Adolf Hitler and then getting her naked? That doesn't make the Holocaust any less disgusting. What the fuck?
Oh,
I'm very confused. The internet worries me sometimes. Well, there's my reaction. My voice is cracking.
So... When do we get Joseph Stalin, Sean?
I don't know, but kill it with fire. Alright, final entertainment question. I'm not supporting this degeneracy any further. Horrible Entertainment wants to know, speaking of fan campaigns, thoughts on the release of the Snyder Cut campaign teaming up with Subway to give sandwiches to the homeless this past weekend. Good on you guys. Absolutely.
I didn't hear about that, but that's good.
That is good stuff. Thank you. Alright. Politics. Depression time. Autist Whisperer wants to know, apparently Twitter has added shadow banning to their terms of service. Thoughts? I guess they couldn't hide it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that basically sums it up.
Yeah, I really don't know anything to really add from that. So.
Yeah, they're going to run election. God, why can't I speak? Election interference. They're going to run election interference.
Oh yeah, 2020 is going to be crazy.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be a fucking madhouse. Stay off the internet. Some of you are okay. Stay off the internet.
All right. Kale Bach wants to know, what do you think of the idea if Hitler never rose to power, World War II would have been with the USSR? I don't know. I really don't think that would have happened. I think we would have just gone straight into the Cold War.
I don't. The Cold War would have been very, very different, I think. If Hitler never rose to power, World War II would have been against just communism in general, I think. And I don't know that we would have had nuclear weapons at all. I know Alternate History Hub did a video on it because this is, one of the big things, but yeah, I'm fairly certain that that would have been the inevitability. It would have been a long-ass war against communism.
Yeah.
Because remember, communism is the final boss.
Apparently. All right. There was, well, we'll talk about it to end. I just saw something interesting in the news. Let's see here. So that's my thoughts on that. Alpha Incel wants to know. Oh, this will be interesting because it gets into the porn discussion again. Alpha Incel wants to know thoughts on Gab supporting a congressman who wants to ban porn. So there has been an interesting thing on this online where there have been people who want to ban pornography on the, completely out there or try to regulate it. And
well, it's an out and out ban. Like it's
that's what Gab and the Groypers are arguing for is an out and out ban. Well, I want to address all arguments on this one. I did a thing about Matt Walsh and basically this idea that government doesn't solve anything, but people didn't think it was my strongest rebuttal. So we'll do a little bit more here so that we can go ahead and do that. So, because there is more points and there are things that I admittedly missed when I did that video. I wanted to keep it short. So, needless to say, I am very much against the banning of pornography because what we deem to be pornography is something that can change over time. Again, like I said on the show,
right.
Showing your ankles at one point was considered pornographic.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I still remember there was a deleted scene that I thought hit the time period so well in Pirates of the Caribbean, where Natalie Portman's character was taunting somebody and said, "Do you fear bare breasts and ankles?" or something like that. Basically meaning those were the two things that would offend somebody in polite society at the time, was seeing a woman's breasts or seeing their ankles. Which is preposterous in the modern lens, of course, but we live in the modern days. We don't live in that time. So, but anyway, that's one big problem that I have, is that you start a law in the year of our Lord 2019 or 2020 about pornography, and then you don't really get to sit there and wonder why exactly there's a whatchamacallit, why 20 years from now the most minute things are getting banned. I mean, you could say that nudity in a film is now pornography. You could say that nudity in a video game is now pornography. To those of you out there who love your fucking waifus, you could say that your ecchi anime is now pornography. I think there's pornographic elements to it, but then again, I don't want it to be illegal. I'm just not going to watch it. As we saw during the podcast, I get a bit mortified by such things.
I mean, it's... Yeah.
Yeah. So, but let's discuss, with that, obviously we're very against the ban. And Gab has gone from saying they're a free speech platform to being exactly the opposite. They're a bunch of fucking hypocrites. And by the way, the creator of Gab is a goddamn coward for not being willing to face Jeremy from the Quartering in a debate on the subject. He tried to quote Chesterton. Yeah. Chesterton argued at length against arguments for pornography in his books. He was not afraid to address the issue, especially to his detractors in one way or another. You're a fucking coward. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't debate, I lead. You just posted cringe, bro. You don't lead shit. If you do, you're the Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Ain't that the truth?
Anyway.
But no,
so the out and out ban, it's
obscenity law.
Yeah, it's obscenity laws don't frickin' work. They're pointless.
No, and even then, like trying to regulate porn under obscenity law, like at least if we're going by the Miller test, you still have to convince a community that it is patently offensive, because that is one of the key elements. It is patently offensive to contemporary community standards.
Who defines what contemporary community standards are, though?
Well, the community does. There was one case that I've been able to find in which obscenity law was actually used. The Miller test was actually used to fine somebody for trafficking obscenity. That is production, movement with intent to sell. And it was, well, it was for something that would probably get the YouTube police to come down on us just to talk about. But it was not very savory, of course. You know, some hardcore fetish thing. But actually went to court, and a jury did come back and say, yes, that is patently offensive to our community standards. I believe the case was in like Arizona, so it was to Arizona's standards. Now you go to a place like Utah, for example, Mormon country, their community standards are going to be very, very different from Arizona's. They're going to be very, very different from fucking California. I mean, it's crazy because each community is going to have different standards. You're not going to have one universal one. But even then, if you're talking like a nationwide standard, your average porno is not going to be patently offensive to people.
Well, I don't know about all that. My issue is this. I am very much on the John Locke approach to government philosophy. And the basic idea behind rights and behind what laws are supposed to be is punishment for the violation of someone else's rights. So that's where the basic, shorthand version of, one's rights end where another's begin. So my question to people in general is, where is the violation of someone's inalienable rights when it comes to this particular instance? So unless someone was literally raped in pornography, or it's underage or something along those lines, everybody who is involved in the production of that porn is consenting to do so. They have given their consent.
Unless the production requires abuse.
Yeah.
Then it should be fine.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about, one dude, one chick, and a production crew. That's basically what most porn is. And
yeah, as long as everyone consents to it.
Yeah. So and not to mention, by clicking on that website, you are consenting to view it. You know, and I say that as an addict. Anytime that I've ever watched pornography, I have consented to view it. My addiction is not an excuse. And the fact of the matter is that when it comes to laws in general, and this is why I hate Thomas Paine, is this idea that government needs to enforce some sort of societal norms is, I think, silly in a lot of ways. Because there's no way to do it constantly. Government doesn't move fast enough. So, And I don't think government should set the standard either. I think people should set the standards for their own damn households. So, there's that. The second thing, and let's go ahead and get into the Matt Walsh argument, and Michael Knowles to a degree too. Hatman, you have frozen. Are you still with me? I don't think he is. Anyway, I will continue. So, it will just look like Hatman is sleeping. But anyway, so on the Matt Walsh thing, he pivoted to this idea that there should be some way for the government to regulate pornography. Now, again, the last thing, this bothers me on 2 degrees. First is the whole idea of trusting government over God, which is basically what that does, is that you are assuming that the government is going to be able to actually regulate something like this, and it's actually going to make any sort of difference on addiction rates or something along those lines, or the damage that pornography does to people. It has failed to do so with cigarettes. It has failed to do so, because that's what he's saying, is like cigarettes or alcohol. It has failed to do so with cigarettes. It has failed to do so with alcohol. It has also, by making certain drugs illegal, has not curbed those addictions either. So why are we assuming that government is just suddenly going to work when it comes to pornography? I have no reason to believe so. No reason whatsoever. And that's one thing that bothers me, is that whenever conservatives seem to assume that government can just come in and make everything hunky dory. When has that ever happened? I cannot think. It doesn't. Yeah, I can't think of a time that it has worked. It's like there are some people who still have not learned the lesson of prohibition. Guys, I'm from Illinois. I'm originally from Chicago. I know what happened during Prohibition probably than most people, because my city was most affected by it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all the arguments for banning porn are just rehashed from Prohibition.
Yeah.
The morality of it. Okay, well, who are you to police what people do?
Yeah. And then it's become so silly, because I've seen supposed conservatives say that, oh, well, if you were a parent, you would think differently. No, I wouldn't. It's no. Like, just because I would ever become a parent doesn't mean I would stop being a libertarian. That's fucking.
We had this argument. We had this argument back in the 90s over video games.
Yeah.
And we agreed that creating a nanny state was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So then, what's the difference now? I mean, they could corrupt children.
Well,
okay, so be a fucking parent.
Well, and yeah, well, that's the big thing. It's people are expecting government to be parents. They don't want government to be your parent when it comes to the guns. They don't want government to be your parent whenever it comes to your speech. But whenever it comes to your children, you're perfectly fine with government taking over. No, on top
government
of that,
is not
on top
a fucking
of that,
daycare.
Yeah, exactly. On top of that, this is the same government that, if ruled by people we disagree with, could throw you in jail for not playing along with your child saying they're a girl when they're not. You want to trust that. I'm sorry to Matt Walsh, but you're a fucking idiot if you think that that's gonna suddenly go your way all of a sudden. People, conservative, and this is part of the reason that I'm walking away from conservatives step by step, waiting for someone to drag me back to it. Waiting for someone to do so. Is because people have gotten so fucking comfortable in the days of Donald Trump that they don't forget that Barack Obama was less than 4 years ago. They forget that Justin Trudeau is in charge in Canada. They forget that the Mexican...
And won re-election.
Yeah, and won re-election. That the current Mexican president is basically Mexican Trudeau. That Angela Merkel exists. that Jeremy Corbyn exists, and all of these other far left authoritarian figures. The idea that the left has somehow vanished because Donald Trump, won the election, like, he could lose in 2020. I don't think he will, but he could lose. And if he does, what then? Then all of a sudden, you're not going to like big government. It's bullshit. This is fucking stupid. You like government whenever whoever you're a fan of is in charge, and you don't like it when the opposite person is. Government in general is not a universal good in any situation. It doesn't matter who's running it. Anybody can abuse their power, right or left. And this absolute ridiculousness is something that is so beyond me. Let's go even further. Is Michael Knowles is arguing like that people who are advocating for porn are libertinists. No, I want less people to watch pornography. I do think it damages you. I also want less people to get drunk all the time. I also want less people to smoke weed. I also want less people to be on cigarettes, etc., etc. I absolutely want that. But that needs to be their decision. If you let government in, it will take over. All the time. That's what it does. You have to keep something in mind. Government is not this autonomous machine that is capable of consistent logic. It's run by people. And people are dumb, panicky animals, and you know it. To quote Men in Black. And I hate to quote movies, but god damn it, I couldn't think of a more appropriate quote at that moment.
Very appropriate.
Dumb, panicky, dangerous animals.
They want to trade the republic for a theocracy.
Yeah.
We tried theocracy. It didn't work. Part of the reason why we have the system that we have now in the United States is because we saw the failures of theocracy and pledged not to repeat them.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. With this whole Handmaid's Tale bullshit, whenever it comes to abortion, now you're starting to give them the argument. What have I always said about the culture war? It is like being across you and the person across the table from you have a gun. Each of you have one gun, and you have a clip of ammo for the other person's weapon. The goal is to get them to slide that ammunition across to you. You guys are giving it to them handily. The left is right whenever it comes to people like this wanting to be censorious assholes. I get that you care about your children and you don't want them to get into these things. You need to take the responsibility as a parent of sacking up and being a parent. If you need to put blockers on your router, if you need to regulate cell phone usage, etc., you're their fucking parent, dude. You that is your home. Put your fucking foot down and say, this is my house, and if you want to live here, you're going to have to abide by my rules. And you want to know how I know that works? My father did it to me. My porn addiction didn't come until like way after my divorce. And I was very much a man at that point in time. My family just didn't have internet. My dad didn't want us to have it. And at his home, for the grandkids, there are blockers on there so that you can't access certain websites. And by the way, and this is something that really gets me about people like Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, is that they could be bringing on, with the size of their fucking platform, they could be bringing on Dr. Ted Roberts, who has done phenomenal research into this particular subject. They could be bringing on the guys behind Triple X Church, who have been working to get people away from porn as far back as I can remember, like as far back as college. They've been doing it over 10 years, and they've had great success in doing so. There are people within the church that are coming up with solutions to these situations, and instead you want government. That tells me you are more comfortable with government than God. And that, as a believer, is a scary place to be. Because God did not feed us to lions, but government did. God didn't see us assassinated during the light of long knives. Government did. God did not throw us into concentration camps. Government did. God did not throw us into gulags. Government did. God did not mercilessly murder missionaries all over the world, but governments have. The safest hands are still our own.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't make me grab Captain America's shield and hit you with it. Christ. And this is what really gets me. It's this is free the argument for free speech in general. Sometimes you have to defend some things that are absolutely abhorrent. And when Richard Spencer understands this better than you do, you might want to double think your position. All right, let's move on.
Yep.
Final topic. Nox the Last wants to know, what C.S. Lewis books do you recommend? Since I've been listening to some short videos on his works, I'm really interested in reading the books they come from. Oh, God. So you're asking a guy who literally took a whole college class, like, for a whole semester that was purely on C.S. Lewis's theology. Okay.
Well, before you start,
can you permit me to get up and grab them?
Go ahead. While you do that, I'll do my picks because it's just two.
All right, I will be right back. Give me about 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm certain that my two picks are going to be on Micah's list. The first is Mere Christianity. That is sort of like a thesis on modern belief structure and how it works with the world today. Since there's a bit of a gap between old school faith and like new, like 20th century, because it's when it was written. It's good. I mean, people still use it today as far as coming to terms with their faith, and a lot of the it reads almost like one of Paul's letters in a way. It's very interesting. The other is The Problem of Pain. The Problem of Pain, of course, deals with the question of evil. If God is all good, then from whence comes evil? Why does evil exist if God is all good? Why does he permit pain and suffering for people? And God, I have not read it in a long time. I actually had to read from this as part of my philosophy class when I was still in community college, because that was one thing that we covered. The question of evil, or the problem of evil, whichever one. I don't remember the exact name of it, but
I shouldn't be cursing, but fuck. Man.
I guess he's having trouble.
All right.
Did you misplace everything?
So, I'm back.
Okay. My picks were Mere Christianity and The Problem of Pain.
Okay. Well, the thing is,
which I'm sure were on your list.
Especially The Problem of Pain. I read it once a year, which, by the way, it's that time of the year again, and I don't have it. Somebody borrowed it, and I didn't. It's not here. It's not on my bookshelf. So I'm actually kind of worried. Like, I'm going to have to stop letting people borrow my books. I never get them back. Okay, so The Problem of Pain, yeah, obviously, I think of any C.S. Lewis work, that is the one that needs to be read by everyone who is a Christian.
I was just saying, we actually had to read it as part of my philosophy course in community college.
Yeah, it is, by and large, the quintessential work on the field of theodicy. And for those who don't know what theodicy is, basically what theodicy is the struggle of pain. and how it affects, theology. So it is a very, very complicated field. And, theologians who aren't as, well, admittedly aren't as good as Lewis still struggle with it to this day. Lewis laid it all out in one book. The Problem of Pain is brilliant. I can't put it any other way. Mere Christianity, the exact same thing. So, some other ones here. Miracles. This one is basically about the idea that, it kind of goes into the logical conclusions of Christianity in a lot of ways, and the things that you have to submit to in regards to your own beliefs, miracles being part of it, and whether it also argues on whether or not it can happen, and uses Lewis's brilliant arguing in this one. So the message that I wrote in this from last year is still there, by the way, because somebody asked us this question last year. I remember that. So another one that is probably the most powerful, in my opinion, is A Grief Observed. Because this is the one he wrote after his wife passed away. And this is a really good one for anyone who is trying to get over trauma, because it goes through a lot of the things that you will feel. And that's probably another one that I probably should read year by year, to be honest with you. Another one that I just started reading, The Personal Heresy. This one is about literary criticism, oddly enough. So, and literary interpretation, which is part of the reason as to why it's so interesting to me, is because, Lewis was also known as a fantastic fiction writer. So, speaking of which, fiction books that you should read of his are The Chronicles of Narnia. Every single book. They're short reads, too. Especially The Last Battle.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Last Battle is incredible. And then another one, The Screwtape Letters. Another brilliant book. Trying to find, there was one excerpt from this that I thought would be a good one to read. And this kind of goes into what I was talking about earlier with being tempted to use everything but God whenever it comes to situations. The fine flower of unholiness can grow only in the close neighborhood of the holy. Nowhere do we tempt so successfully as on the very steps of the altar. Literally the last sentence of this book from Screwtape Proposes a Toast. After he, well, no, I won't spoil what happens to Wormwood. So, but a version of Wormwood actually shows up in Project Lazarus. So, stay tuned for that book. Along with Tash as well, though we've very much changed them from how C.S. Lewis wrote them. They're very different characters. So, but anyway, so yeah, that would be my recommendations for sure. Also, The Great Divorce is another one. So, all right. Well, that is all of our questions from the week.
You've got a thing to do in about 5 minutes.
Yes, I
Well,
do.
no, never mind. About an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah, about an hour and 5 minutes. So,
That's right. I keep thinking it was Eastern time, but
yep. All right,
you
folks.
got time to get through.
Yeah. So I will see you guys later. We are going to or the show that I'm going to be on, just so you know, just to keep an eye out for it, is for CG Jumpstart, talking about my work, and I will definitely be putting links out to it on Twitter, so keep an eye out there. So, other than that, Hatman, anything to leave us on at this point?
Make Istanbul Constantinople again.
There you go. Well, folks, we appreciate you watching. We'll be back this weekend with the podcast, barring any craziness. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, the new Hat Man.
We'll see you guys soon. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.